Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're listening from. I'm happy to have you. This is Dr. Deke Phobia, and I'm talking about attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Or is it really that? Or could it be sensory processing disorder? What is sensory processing disorder, or SPD? It's a condition where the brain has trouble receiving and responding to information that comes in through the senses. It can affect one or more senses. So it could be sight, hearing, touch, smell, taste, balance, or even body position. And people with SPD may be overly sensitive to sensory stimuli. They become hypersensitive to it, or they could be undersensitive to it, or hyposensitive, or they may experience a mixture of all of these. So for people that have the hypersensitivity, they tend to have difficulty in loud environments, bright lights, difficulty with certain textures, difficulty tolerating crowds, certain smells. They have aversion to specific types of clothing. Even just touching something ticks them off. With hypersensitivity or undersensitivity, they may be seeking sensory input like spinning, crashing. They like to touch everything, taste everything. They can have high pain tolerance, lack of awareness of injuries, or even difficulty detecting subtle sensory cues such as hunger and temperature. So, and some individuals may have a mixture of all of that. The behavioral changes could be meltdowns or withdrawing from the environment. It could be very overwhelming, and they can have difficulty focusing as a result of this. Now, how does this differ from attention deficit hyperactivity disorder? Well, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is challenges with attention, impulse control, and hyperactivity. So they are inattentive, they're impulsive, they're hyperactive, or it could be a combination of the two. Triggers are environments that require focus and planning. They lose their self-control. And that's why we see it a lot in school, or people with young kids, or people at work, adults who work. They have sustained focus difficulty. They're not able to sustain their focus even without sensory triggers. Whereas with the SPD, it's the sensory overload that affects their focus. So people with ADHD may be restless, fidgety, they are unable to remain seated, they're constantly wiggling, trying to do something, or doing this, or just doing something in order to relieve the symptoms. Whereas people with SPD are more likely to have poor motor skills and just kind of withdraw from the environment or from what they don't like. So ADHD primarily affects executive functioning and self-regulation in the brain, whereas with SPD, we're talking more about sensory processing in the brain. So how the sensation input is received and interpreted by the brain. Those are the major differences. So sometimes people have diagnosis of ADHD. They actually have SPD. In my next video, I'm going to talk about what we can do about SPD. Have a beautiful day, everyone. Sensory processing disorder. Food for thought.